session. So you are being recorded today, and we will use the slides and the recording and send them to you in a link following this webinar today. You will receive it within about 48 hours. Then we will make these same resources along with a summary of today's discussion available in our resource library at apqc.org in just a few weeks. For interaction today, please feel free to use the chat. We love to see the interactivity in our knowledge management audience. We like the questions, the comments, and you all get to share with one another as well. And we see lots of connections happening throughout our webinar. So keep that going today, and love seeing where everyone's showing up from a very global audience yet again today. So, and it sounds like it's hot and humid everywhere today. That's the consensus from the chat. We're going to talk just a minute about upcoming opportunities. We always like to keep you in the know of what's happening at APQC. And then we're going to dig right into some of the content today and talk about the future of knowledge management and the role of expertise and what that might look like in the future, today and in the future both. And then, as always, at the end, we provide you with a lot of takeaways and resources. So please make sure you go through, the presentation when you get it sent to you, because we have lots of links that we've curated some information for you already, save you a little bit of time, jump right into our resource library and do some additional reading. I think Lauren's also going to throw some links maybe to some content in the chat while we're talking today too, just to make sure you know what's available to you. Okay, so upcoming opportunities for engaging with us. Just a couple of webinars coming up. August, we're going to be talking about communities of practice. Again, this is kind of our back to school edition. We like to talk about some of our more foundational elements of KM. And we did a new study on communities this year, which we haven't done for quite some time. So we'll be talking through some of that research and also be joined again by Stan Garfield, who a lot of you might know as an expert, author, and consultant in the area of communities of practice specifically. And he will be joining us just to provide some of his insights based on our latest research. So please join us for that. And then October 1st, we're going to be talking about what we're calling kind of the great retirement crisis. So that brain drain and that knowledge loss of that baby boomer generation and what that looks like. We're doing some research on that right now, and this is going to be a sponsored webinar by the eGain Corporation. So we'll be doing a shared conversation with our sponsor about what that looks like to manage the transfer and get in front of that knowledge loss that we're seeing from the mass retirements going on in some organizations. We also have a joint roundtable coming up in September I'm really excited about. We're going to be talking about the topic of collaboration, right? What better fit for the knowledge management audience? And we're joining our supply chain audience this time. Supply chain said, hey, we need some help in understanding how to collaborate a little better across the functions of supply chain. Let's get together with our KM friends and let's talk about it. So this is going to be a fun time. If you're a member, please feel free to join us. And then, as always, we have some certifications going on at APQC all the time. These are amazing. You'll hear from the amazing Cindy Hubert, which is our KM fellow, and she's also on the call with us today, along with Darcy Lemons, who teaches the certification courses, and they're amazing. So if you have an opportunity, please check those out. All right, are you ready to dig into some content? Now, I'm going to set the stage just a little bit and tell you how we got here. So early this year, for the first time at APQC, we actually surveyed knowledge management professionals to really assess the role of leaders and practitioners working in the discipline of knowledge management. So this research includes who they are, the demographics, the education, the experience, the skill sets, the journeys and the career paths of KM professionals now and what's expected in the future with all the changes that are going on, excuse me, globally and around the world and externally with AI and all the things. In addition, this research also includes the focus on the role that our experts play within the organization and why they're so critical to ensuring that the knowledge transfer is actually happening within our organizations and that we get those successful engagements and adoptions of our knowledge practices overall. Now, we had well over 400 people respond to this survey, so this was a hot topic for everyone. So hopefully you'll enjoy talking through this. And please, again, if you have comments or things you want to share or insights, pop them in the chat. We love to hear about it. And some of you may know, too, we did a roundtable on this topic last December. And that roundtable, for those of you who participated, really helped trigger what we wanted to do the research on. So you all gave us those initial insights and how you're thinking about the role of KM, what role it plays in the organizations, and how it's going to evolve over time. So we've got insights from a roundtable, and Lauren's going to talk to you later about another roundtable we did at the conference. So we've got lots of information on this topic. So to get us started, just to show you from the research that we did, which was a survey, this is where we started out by asking people just about their organizational models around KM and the years that they've been in place. So this gives you some insight of the people who are responding to the survey. In the model area, it was pretty evenly split, even though we had more people say they actually have an enterprise approach to knowledge management, which is kind of the approach we always recommend if you can have that, is to really take it to the enterprise level. But we do have a lot of people doing it at the functional level, meaning, an engineering division or operations or HR, or somebody specifically is focused on KM in their organizations, which is never a bad place to start, as long as you can make it scalable, right, to the rest of the organization. We also have about a quarter of people that were federated. So they choose having a centralized function, but then they farm out or they decentralize some of the capabilities within the different business functions, because there's some variances within those functions. And so it's okay to have a little bit of variance going on there. As far as the experience level, or I should say the KM program length of the people who responded, just over half were actually in that, I'll call it startup, 0 to 5 years. So in the beginning stages of putting a knowledge strategy in place. And Cindy can attest to this too. We're seeing this all over the place, right? Conversations we have with members at the conference, we have a lot of people saying, we're just starting up. My company is now sponsoring this. They want us to put knowledge management in place, so we're here to learn, right? So we're still seeing a lot of that. But look at that number. Almost a third of the people have had over 11 years their KM programs were in place. So those are some of our more mature knowledge management programs. And you'll see in our research that we have lots of examples of those more mature organizations. So please take advantage and learn from those people. And then we have those few that are in the middle. Now, I'd love to know anybody's insights into why do we have so few that are in that middle range between 6 and 10? What happens, right? We have a lot of startups, and we have quite a few that are in the more advanced stage. Is this the hard part? Is it post 5 years that gets really challenging to sustain? Are we losing sponsorship? Are we losing funding? What is that? And why might it look like this? So curious of anybody's thoughts. All right, that's just a little bit of setting the stage here. Along with that is really the reporting function. And honestly, this is a question I get from a lot of people. Where should KM report in the organization? Who should it report to? What's the best place for it to report to? And unfortunately, there isn't a perfect answer to this question. I too used to ask it 25, 30 years ago when I was starting out in KM. And I got some great guidance from a very wise person who's also on this call today, Miss Cindy Hubert, when she said, it has to live where it can survive and thrive, where it's supported and sponsored and budgeted, right? That's where it lives best in your organization. And in every organization, it could look a little different depending on your sponsorship and your leadership support. This tells you this is the case just from this research right here. Look at how varied it is. The highest percentage we have is that it reports to a specific function, and that's at 15%. But we've got C-suite reporting, we've got operations, we've got digital, we've got transformation and strategy offices, all the way down to learning and development and planning and strategy, HR. Again, it depends on where it's being supported, right? And sometimes it can change depending on who's in the leadership seats, right? It can move around as well. So I just think this is interesting. And it looks like somebody put a comment in there that talked about the changing of the guard with reorgs, transitions. It does make it difficult to maintain a proper or improper, or there's not good handoffs happening, right? Between the changing of leadership, which is something we see all the time. So thank you for that comment. Okay. So first poll, this is where we like to get some insight into who we have on the call today. So if you take just a second and answer this question, what best describes your current role as it relates to knowledge management? So do you have a formal title? Do you just do knowledge related work without a title? Are you a subject matter expert? Are you a consultant? Where do you kind of fall? And hopefully the poll popped up so you can answer that.
Sorry, give me one moment
Oh,
here.
that's okay.
Having a
Lauren's
little
going to
bit of
pop the
technical
poll up,
issues.
guys. Hold on a second. If you can hold off.
Having a few technical issues. No,
That's okay. That's
doesn't
okay.
seem to be working. So
The poll's not working. It looks like we're getting a lot of responses though in the
yeah.
chat. We've got some informal roles, Lauren. We got several actually informal roles. It looks like A had a couple of B's, a C, a subject matter expert. Yep, got some informal roles. Oh, we do have a D in there. Somebody was a consultant. That's awesome. Looks like mostly formal and informal KM roles is kind of what we're seeing.
I know, Linda, I saw a
Yeah.
couple of E's in there. I'm coming for you because I want to hear more about your interest. I think
Yeah.
there's a broad audience out there that's interested. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you. Look, more E's. Okay.
Yeah, there you
Thank
go.
you.
The E's. I only saw one before. Now I see a couple more. Exactly. And the E is I don't have a role. I'm just here to learn. So fantastic. Hey, once you learn about KM, you're hooked. We'll just tell you that. It's a great field to work in. All right. Awesome. Thanks for adjusting to the chat. This is why I love the KM audience. We're very agile. Okay. Now, this is a little bit of the meat of what we're going to talk about today. So again, if you see anything that is interesting or you have insights or questions, pop it in the chat. We're paying attention, I promise. Okay, so KM roles today. Again, this is looking at a lot about the individual who is playing the role in knowledge management. So we start with something related to the years of experience that you have. So we asked that question, how many years of experience in KM? Now, this was their overall experience, not just the current role that you're in. We wanted to see what true level of experience we had. And we have 51% that had more than 10 years of experience. So I think once you get, like I said, once you get involved in KM, you get hooked and you stay involved in KM. Even if your role doesn't say that, you're doing those kinds of things. We do have quite a few people with less than 3 years. So we have a lot of newbies, which we love. And then we have those folks that are kind of in that mid between 3 and 10 years. So please stick with it. The interesting thing is we have very experienced people who answered this poll, but yet we still had 50% say that their KM programs were new in their organizations. So I'm curious as to what that means. Do we have people with experience who are moving around a little bit, maybe moving to other companies who are more maybe doing knowledge management? So maybe their program in their company stopped, so they moved on to another job, things like that. So it might be kind of interesting because we do have quite a few experienced people answering this call. The other thing is the description of your current role. I found this interesting too, that it's pretty much evenly split over those top 4 things. People think of themselves as a consultant, an internal consultant providing knowledge services back to the organization. Personally, that's how I always thought of myself when I worked in knowledge management as well. I always thought of my team as a service to the internal company. We also have about a quarter of people who are in the management area overseeing those knowledge management services, whether they're at a C-suite level, executive level, senior leader, or maybe the KM director or the manager of the KM team, but they're overseeing those services. And then we also have quite a few doing the project or program level role around KM. So identifying those needs and then going out and rolling them out into specific areas within the business, or maybe they're the community of practice program manager or the lessons learned program manager, something like that. But we also had quite a few who responded who are the business representative. So they're working in a function, manufacturing, engineering, something like that, or maybe in the medical, in pharmaceutical, they're in the science division or something, and they're not in a formal role, but they are supporting and performing activities, probably a community leader role, maybe doing some content management, things like that. So pretty evenly split around the current roles that we're seeing. Now, this is a little bit on the demographics. We always like to look at like what makes up the demographics of our KM professionals. And the balance of gender is interesting. Cindy and I and Lauren were talking about this the other day, and I said, there's very few industries where you really find a nice balance of that gender mix, right? Between there's some that are highly dominated by maybe more males or some that are female. We're pretty much down the middle. And I feel like that's an advantage to us because, it brings lots of different backgrounds and experiences and thought processes, and it gives you that great diversity of thought, I like to call it, right? When you mix these audiences together. So I do love this, and I think this is great. And I think this has changed over time. I feel like it used to be a little bit more dominated by one gender than another, but it feels very even now. And I think I feel that when I'm at the conference and when I'm talking to members, it's a really good mix. So love that. Then when we look at our generations, this is always fascinating to me to look at generations. This is something Lauren loves to focus on as well, and she's going to talk a little bit more about this. But we've got half of the people working in the KM profession, at least from this study, are in that Gen X. Well, it's a large part of our population as well, which kind of makes sense. But I did look up the global workforce today to compare numbers, and the millennials are actually the largest workforce right now, according to the latest research. And yet they lag behind us in knowledge management by half, basically, which I find interesting. Then we've still got baby boomers. 17% of knowledge management people identify themselves as baby boomers, which is higher than the global population of the workforce. So apparently knowledge management people like to work even well into their retirement years because it's fun, it's great, it's a fantastic place to be. Probably a lot of people still doing consulting and things like that, so love to see that number as well. Now the newbies, the younger people coming into the workforce today are less likely to be involved in knowledge management. And again, Lauren's going to talk about this a little bit later, but my overall assessment of this is that you don't normally jump right out of college and jump into knowledge management. A, you might not even know about it or what it is. And B, it usually takes a little bit of experience to kind of find that niche area of how you fit into the equation of working in knowledge management as well. So I guess I'm not surprised by this, but wouldn't it be cool if we could make this a little bit more balanced, right, as we go forward and get all the different thought processes from the different generations really working together on what works best to transfer and preserve our organization's most critical knowledge. Okay, now we're going to jump into the skills. There's kind of a lot on this, but I wanted to talk about this one, the skill sets. But I didn't want to show you all the charts, so I kind of compiled it together. So there's a lot on here, but overall, we're talking about the most common skills that we leverage today, really by a majority of KM professionals. And then we wanted to look at what are those things we need to think about in the next 18 months and beyond, right? In the future, what's going to be the most important? So on the left side of the screen, you'll see that more than 90% of the people actually said communications, active listening, relationship building, flexibility. So that ability to really ebb and flow and converse with the organization and listen to what's happening in the organization and build those relationships. A lot of times we call those the soft skills. I personally don't like that word. I feel like they're actually the hard skills because they're more challenging to try to take on. But 90% of the people responded chose those as top skills for KM. So I love that because it is about the people first and the processes and the technology, but it's really about getting those people together. We also had 75% that talked about critical thinking, problem solving, being creative, being able to facilitate and speak, partnering, process management, emotional intelligence. Again, all really, really important skill sets to making sure that your knowledge programs are effective. And then still at least 50%, and in some cases more, get into that space of change management, design thinking, training, risk management, business acumen, right? And a lot of this is going to be based on probably what you're doing in your current role, right? When you answer these questions. But do you see the plethora of skill sets that are required and are needed to be able to perform in a knowledge management function? I love to call these, aligning to those adjacent disciplines, right? Things like change management. That has an entire industry in and of itself, and we have to understand how to use that. Understanding our business, right? Having that acumen. So maybe you need to have some business experience in another area of your company to gain that business acumen. Technology fluency. I mean, that's huge, right? What is that? That's a big statement right there. Technology fluency. Do I need to know how to code? Do I just need to know how to use the tools? What does that look like? So lots and lots of skills required to make that well-rounded knowledge management professional. And I know that most of us kind of fall into one area. We might be more focused on technology. Maybe we're focused more on facilitation and change. Maybe we're focused on leading and strategizing. But that's a lot of skills, right, to really take on. And looking into the future, most people said we got to understand AI and generative AI, and let's add agentic AI to that. And I'm watching the chat and it's moving and moving. And so somebody just shout out to me, Lauren, if I need to comment on something, but it looks like Cindy is kind of answering some of the questions. So that's good. But those skills in the future, if you see something on here, or maybe you don't see something on here, throw something out there and say, hey, we're also focusing on these things as well. We tried to be all encompassing with what we talked about, but again, it was just really pointing out the necessary competencies for working in this field of KM. And again, a lot of people narrow, but it's still important to understand these are all necessary. So that's why there's going to be an article coming out soon that I called it the DNA of the KM discipline, because I said people often refer to KM as the jack of all trades, or having to understand lots of different areas. And yes, we hone in on specific things, but it really takes a broad spectrum of understanding. And I really narrowed it down to kind of these 5 areas, right? You've got to understand how to develop a strategy and align to your organization. You've got to understand how to facilitate and build human connections and help others build connections with each other. You do need to understand your processes, and you need to govern that knowledge strategy to align with your processes. So you need to have that level of expertise. Technology and AI fluency is becoming even more important. It's still an enabler, but it's becoming even more important because it kind of drives what we do in all aspects of what we do. And then the ability to be adaptable and manage change and help others in the organization manage change as well. So love to hear any thoughts on that. That's just, Lynda looking at the research and kind of putting some insights and saying, I feel like these are a lot of the things that we need to care and think about as we go forward in the field of knowledge management. And most importantly, how do all of these things contribute to value in your organization? How are these really helping you solve real business problems? This is what we're here to do. Okay. I love that. Sorry, I just saw the comment about that Carla said, always play under the main tent. That's good, Cindy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stacy has a great comment too about AI will help KM in the organization because it helps populate garbage in, garbage out. I think that's a great way to use the tool.
Absolutely. And Stacy, to that point, KM's kind of always been there to help manage the garbage in, garbage out, right? With content management and looking at how we're using and managing our information. AI is that burning platform that gave us the attention again, right? To go focus on that and make it important in the organization. So it brought it to light again, which I think is fantastic. So thank you for that. Org culture. Thank you, Daniel Lee. In my experience, KM is an issue of organizational culture. Yes, it is. It is absolutely about culture. All right, I'm going to keep moving. I found this interesting too. Knowledge management people are pretty well educated. So according to our research, right, on the right side of the screen under formal education, over half the people have a master's degree. Even 9% had doctorates, and and a lot of people have bachelor. And it's not that is, it's just a highly educated field. And I think a lot of people are coming from a variety of backgrounds, which you can see in the degree. I wanted to ask this question because I was just really fascinated by where do people come from? And this is why I think we have such a well-rounded discipline, and we bring such great conversations and challenges and debates and ideas and innovations, because look at those backgrounds. We've got, quite a few in the business administration, I'll say, or related field. That can be a lot of things. It can be marketing, it can be finance, it can be, lots of different things, even in business. But we've got information and library science, we've got engineering, we've got computer science, IT, and even other areas of science and math, or communications and journalism, education and HR, right? You've seen a trend here. All these backgrounds actually align to a lot of those skill sets that we just talked about. So people are bringing what they know and their backgrounds and their love and their passion, and we're bringing it into the field of knowledge management because we're there to help solve business problems, right? Through better knowledge flow and alignment to our processes and a better culture to kind of work within that's more collaborative. So I just love that. It kind of all fits together. And when you look at accreditations and certifications, honestly, this one kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, it did, but it didn't, I guess. Project management and knowledge management certifications were by far the highest, and I love that. And of course, we put in their example of APQC's knowledge management certification course, which we have, and we know there are others that do this, but there's people seeking certifications, and I don't think it's for the sake of saying I have one. It's for the sake of saying I need one to help me advance, right? My own professional capabilities, but also what we're doing in our organization to take maybe knowledge services and knowledge practices to the next level. And I do love that project management is in there because if you can't get things done effectively and on time and within budget, it's going to be really tough to make that case going forward. And then, of course, the change and the lean or Six Sigma and the business process management, these areas of focus have been around since the beginning of KM, probably, right? We've been talking about the people aspect and the ability to lean out our processes, right? And remove the variation from our processes so we can be more efficient and productive. Those have always been the goals of knowledge management. So I love to see the focus here on these kinds of certifications and areas of study. If anybody else has anything that they don't see on here or other things that they're pursuing. Now, what we don't have on here, probably we have things on here around AI, but if there's anything specific in some of these areas that you'd love to throw in and say, hey, I've taken this class or I'm doing this training or this has become important to my organization, throw it in the chat. Like we love to hear about the new areas of where people are educating themselves for the purposes of being more effective in KM, right? All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move from the role of kind of what we think of as our roles in maybe a knowledge management team or even an informal role doing knowledge management, but let's think about those subject matter experts. Sometimes I don't think we spend enough time talking about the role that our experts play and how valuable and important they are to what we're doing in knowledge management. We can't do it without them. It's their expertise we're trying to preserve and capture and transfer and move on for the next generations, right? And for our competitiveness in our companies. And so these are the things that the survey respondents told us that they're having their experts perform, the types of knowledge activities they're performing in their organizations. And most of them, 40%, said they're having them manage content. That's good. Creating, updating, validating content, which is great. I think this becomes a really important thing now with AI as well. So I think maybe that's where some of this is coming from too, is that now we're using some AI capabilities and we're using our experts to validate those responses coming out of AI. But also experts spend time leading communities, right? 20% said leading communities and networks. Also mentoring or training, providing feedback to the knowledge team, like what is working, what's not working within our discipline. And also playing that role of a cross-functional member on a steering group, right? That really helps to drive the knowledge strategy forward. Those were the key things that the survey told us that SMEs were actually performing. Here's the skill sets. They said that they wanted to see their subject matter experts. Is number one, by far, 2/3 said sharing their wisdom, which is fantastic. My question is managing content equate to sharing wisdom, or is that performing a task to help us move forward? I don't know. Like I have to stop and think about that. When I think about sharing wisdom, I think of that more in sense of telling stories and sitting with people and mentoring them and doing knowledge transfer, maybe elicitation, interviews, recording videos, teaching, all of that kind of stuff. So if sharing wisdom is really the most important thing we need subject matter experts to do in our organization, we probably need to make sure that we're focusing on directing them there as easily as we can. Now, Easier said than done, right? They all have bandwidth issues. They're very busy people. They're the go-to experts. It can be very challenging. But I find it really, I love that we said sharing wisdom is the most important thing they can do, along with being able to critically think, be innovative, build relationships, inspire others, and tell stories, right? These are what we need our experts to do before they move on to another role, leave the workforce, and pass that generational or that critical knowledge on to that next generation of the workforce. So just love keeping this in mind. And so I just thought a quick reminder of the kinds of things that subject matter experts can and should be supporting in our organizations. Now, this research actually comes from our 2025 KM benchmarks, okay? And this is where KM programs did respond and say that we do formalize the role of a subject matter expert in our organization, whether it's to lead a community of practice, manage content, teach courses, mentor others, do elicitation interviews, whatever that looks like, they do formalize the role. And those tend to be the more successful knowledge management programs as well. So think about how you're utilizing those subject matter experts, and are you making that something that, and I don't mean formal, it might not be as formal as it's in their title, it just may be part of the expectations of their job. That's really what that means by formal. But these are the things that subject matter experts can support. They can help manage content through, helping with taxonomy topics and things like that, but they can be there to transfer knowledge and train new experts. They can lead communities. They can validate content, coming out of AI outputs. They can be an advocate for what we're doing. They become some of your greatest change champions when you leverage subject matter experts in a way that celebrates them and retains what they've done for the organization to pass it on to the next generation. That's a great thing to do, and they will be happy to advocate and tell those stories. So this is just a reminder. So I recommend you go take a look at this research and see some of those things on how we can be leveraging subject matter experts more effectively, because that's going to be a big part of the future of our knowledge management roles, especially because of the AI component. We have to be able to leverage those folks. And then finally, I wanted to give you a proven practice, and this is a looking at a case study with the company Technip FMC, which is an oil and gas company located in Houston. And they have a technical expertise program, and they're not the only ones that we work with, but this was an example I wanted to bring up. They identified the need to formalize their technical expertise program just a few years back, and got together with them, and they've created like a fellows type environment. And again, we have other companies that are doing this as well, but this is proving to really advance the knowledge capabilities in their organization, because they are partnering with those groups of their most critical technical experts. And this is just giving a little example of what they do. They advise, they educate, they share, they connect with others, they inspire others, they do these things. And some of this list down here is what Technip told us are those things that they needed to do to keep this program going and to really build it up. They had to get close to the leadership in those technical areas, right? They had to bring all of their tools and strategies to support the program, because depending on what the technical experts were trying to do, it took a variety of different knowledge services to meet their needs. And also knowing that it's a long game, right? Establishing a relationship with your critical experts in your organization does not happen overnight. You build those relationships, you engage them, you get them involved. Also some guidance to partner with your talent management team as well in human resources. They're the ones hiring these people. Let's get them engaged from day one, or even before they get in the door, right? So take a look at this. This is just a good example of a technical program. There are, like I said, we have others that do this as well. Collins Aerospace comes up to me off the top of my head. They have a technical engineering fellow program, right? So there's other companies out there who are doing these things, and it really does enhance the capability of your knowledge services. So, okay. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk a little bit about KM careers now and in the future. And since she represents more of the future than I do, I'm going to let Lauren Hayes talk about this next section, and I'll keep monitoring the chat as well.
Great, thanks, Lynda. So we're going to go ahead and get started with knowledge management career beginnings. So in our survey, we asked what led you to a career in KM. And a majority of our respondents reported that their background really made them a natural fit for KM. And I don't think that that's surprising at all. I know for a lot of us, KM wasn't a planned destination, but really a natural evolution of our skills and experiences over the years. So that was a pretty interesting thing to see, get that kind of confirmation. Around half of our respondents also got involved in a KM role to help improve organizational and employee efficiency, which also tracks as KMers are very value-driven and focused on making work better for others. We saw about 1/4 that saw KM as a way to advance their career or have leadership ask them to get involved, which suggests that leadership does play a role, but really that strongest pull into KM really comes from that personal alignment. And finally, a smaller but not insignificant percentage said that a reorganization led them to career in KM, which suggests that KM roles can emerge from shifting business opportunities. We're going to go ahead and move on to career advancement. And we asked, to what extent do you agree with the following statement? I have a clear path for career advancement in my current organization. And honestly, the results were pretty varied. About 40% of respondents believe that they do see advancement within their current organization. About 1/4 are unsure of their future advancement opportunities. But we also saw where over 1/3 did say that they are having a hard time seeing a future or don't see a clear path at all. And while it can absolutely vary from company to company, it could be that some organizations don't have that formalized KM career structure, or they lack the communication or visibility involved with role opportunities. Additionally, we also asked, to what extent do you think your career will remain in KM, just generally speaking? And those results were also mixed, with about half saying that they believe they're going to stay in KM, another half saying they're unsure, and just under 10% saying they don't anticipate staying in the KM role at all. So we're seeing that even with internal paths being unclear for a lot of people, many people are really still committed to advancing KM because they do see the value of the discipline. So we're looking here at the preferred career paths of KMers. And as you can see, the most preferred step is a management role, which indicates that there is a really strong desire for having that broader organizational impact. But beyond leadership, KMers are really interested in a variety of career steps, like being subject matter experts or consulting or project management. And that really reflects that multiple discipline nature of people who work in KM, and that flexibility of that KM provides for different strengths. So again, despite some of that uncertainty that you saw on the previous slide, a lot of professionals still want to grow in their KM careers. But we can't forget about that 8% that say that they also want to retire. So as always with KM, organizations really need to be thinking about how to capture and transfer that expertise moving forward. And then finally, we're going to talk real quickly about the role of Nexperts in the future of knowledge management. So at this year's APQC conference, we developed a small roundtable discussion experience for KM Nexperts, or the up-and-coming KM leaders and experts. This was an invitation-only session for registrants who indicated that they had about 3 to 5 years of knowledge management experience and are at that Nexpert level of knowledge management. And really the purpose of this roundtable was to share some of our recent research and to really get their insights and opinions about the future of KM roles. So they really focused on career paths, engaging future generations, and I wanted to share just a few of the takeaways that we had from this discussion. The first being, you probably have more KM Nexperts in your organization than you think you do. Nexperts appear to be a smaller group than those who have more KM experience, but many of them are really just in business roles that might not have the title KM within it. but they are truly leading knowledge management initiatives as part of their job duties. We saw before the uncertainty that many knowledge management professionals are experiencing as far as their future with KM career paths. And Nexperts, more than any other group, don't currently feel confident that they have a future in KM. So really working with HR and other business leaders to create those clear knowledge management goals and career paths could really be an effective strategy for helping to drive that retention amongst the Nexperts. They are also really the strategic enablers of transformation and are on the front lines of AI adoption. They're helping to drive buy-in, manage data and content for AI, and really address any AI-related pain points within the business. Nexperts also really benefit from having opportunities to learn from their peers. They really want and need more opportunities to network, attend conferences, form those different mentoring relationships, and really learn the value of KM's business impact. Then finally, Nexperts have those creative strategies for engaging younger generations in KM, like building those approaches into onboarding and daily work. Your younger KM colleagues often have their own knowledge to offer as well, like how to create engaging KM content. So, overall with Nexperts, they're really continuing to build that experience and their leadership capabilities. And I think the future of KM expertise is really looking bright with them.
I agree, Lauren. And we had a great question from Lauren Whitmore in the chat. She said, how do I get engaged with the Nexperts community? And it's like, that's a great question. Let's talk about what that could look like, right? Lauren Hayes did this roundtable at our conference this year. It was her idea. She put it together. She met with everybody. I attended and sat and watched, and it was such a fabulous conversation that I think we need to figure out how to continue to leverage that Nexpert group of people, those folks just getting started out. They're in there. They're the ones that are going to carry the torch, right, to the next generation of KMers. So I think it's a great question. And I think, between Lauren and I and Cindy, we need to talk about what can we do, right? What can we do with all of you? How do we keep that going? Not just at our conference once a year, but maybe at other times,
Absolutely.
Webinars, roundtables, like there's lots of things that we can do to engage and get those new ideas. Because it's amazing, like Lauren and I working together, Lauren is coming from that Nexpert generation. I've been around for decades now. And but together, right, we have so much fun talking about the kinds of things we can do at APQC to offer all of you, our members, and those of you that we like to call future members of APQC, right? But how we can get information to you and how you might best want to engage with us or consume the information that we're sharing. And Lauren brings a whole new set of ideas and innovations, and she's extremely creative. And so it's been a really benefit to me. And again, I have a lot of years of experience, but it's different. We all have different experiences, and when we bring them together, it's amazing, right? And we have so much fun. And then working with Cindy as well, our KM fellow, who's worked at APQC for a very long time. We're just giving you an example of the fact that we've got people, I've been at APQC 2 years. Lauren is just under a year. Cindy's been here for 30 years, I think, right? Think about that variety of experiences that we bring together so that we can provide this forum for you all to come together as well. So it's just a really cool thing. And I love seeing how people got started. And I think it was Jasek from Mercer who shared that it was either going to be KM or he was going to be an actor, and he thinks he chose the right way. So we're glad you're part of KM too. It's interesting. I was trying to look here and see if anybody else put in here how they started, because some people say it was Jasek said it was a conscious, clear choice. And
Lynda, Pavel said, it's awesome. He created his own job in knowledge management as the solution because there was a clear need, I'm quoting him, namely too slow of innovation and project management issues in R&D. And I said, I bet that business case was amazing.
I love that. What a great example of, you know, because sometimes, you know, we can be our own worst barriers by saying, well, you know, my company doesn't have KM. Can you make it? Can you create it? Can you go find that problem that you can solve with some of your knowledge management experiences and go help bring that value back to the business? So that's a perfect example. Perfect example. And yeah, somebody else said, let me see, they came into KM full time when their KM and training teams went from separate teams under a unified team, right? So all of a sudden they were probably part of training. Now they become part of KM, right? It all comes together. So I think everybody has a great experience like that. And me personally, I used to be a more technical resource way, way back in the day, and I was asked to join a new startup KM within my organization because they needed someone to develop websites for these things called communities of practice. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And I get involved in it and realized, you know, this whole discipline that existed out there that involved people, processes, tools, technologies, and everything combined. And it really served my need personally as well as serving a need for the organization. So thus began, you know, a journey that I didn't even know I needed until it happened, right? And I think, you know, that happens to a lot of people is they have a skill that's needed on the KM team. And so they're asked to be a part of it. And then they're introduced to this concept that is just so, I'm going to say powerful, right, for the organization. And you're going to see a lot of things coming from us in the next few months where we're really, we love that we can help people start a community program or develop a lessons learned capability or figure out how to use and leverage AI in their organization. But most importantly, we want everyone to always remember that we're here to help make our businesses better, right? We want to solve business problems. You have communities. What problem are you solving, right, with those communities of practice? Are you trying to improve efficiency? Are you trying to enhance collaboration? Are you trying to develop more product innovation? Whatever that is, let's make sure we understand the problems that we're solving. So you're going to see a lot more of us doing some things like that as we go forward because we really want to help people focus on solving business problems. There's never a time for KM's sake, right? It's all about the business. So, oh yeah, great point. Abby says she was practicing KM long before she knew what it was called. Absolutely, that happens so many times. Lauren, I don't know that I remember how you got involved in KM first when you were at CRB before you came to APQC.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of people. I sort of fell into it. You know, I applied for an administrative role, and it happened to be on a newly formed knowledge and process team. So we were all still trying to figure out exactly what we were doing. And I really fell in love with the discipline as a whole because I've always been a generalist at heart. You know, I can do a little bit of a lot of things. And I think that's where KMers really thrive is we're kind of the Swiss Army knife of our organization. So we have to know how to do a little bit of a lot of different things. So that's really where I started to find my stride and just kind of grew from there. Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Okay, you can tell this is a topic we love talking about. So we like to know who the people are. We're going to do another poll quick before we close out. Oh, yes. Yay! We got the poll working. So we want to know, do you see a clear career path for knowledge-related roles in the future? And don't limit yourself, right, to what they're called or anything, but do you see a path for doing these KM type roles? And if you have any commentary to go with your answer, feel free to throw that in the chat too. We always love to see the why behind some of these answers. Makes it a little bit more engaging. And thanks for those folks who are in the chat sharing other resources too. We love it when you share other resources for us to go check out. And we will go back through and review the chat just so you know A lot of these comments will be part of our summary write-up, but we will never put anyone's name or a company name or anything like that. It stays completely anonymous, just so you know that. All right, maybe we can see the poll now. There we go. Well, that's good. Most people see a career path. Definitely 44%, that's awesome. But even 40% basically said somewhat. And then there's some that aren't sure, or maybe they don't see that path at all. And that's okay. The fact that you're here today means that you care about it and probably can be doing some sort of knowledge type activities within whatever role that you have. And that's okay. And if you're unsure or you don't understand or whatever, make sure, like I said, leverage some of the resources that we have for you, and maybe it will help you in determining what your next direction is too. We always want to be here to help you and provide those resources. So, and yeah, I was going to say that too. Like this is I look at this as an optimistic question. Like this is an opportunity to always say, yeah, I definitely see a career path because I can create it for myself, like Pavel did, right? He created it for himself, which is amazing. Okay, so one final thing to close this out, just some key takeaways from this study based on conversations. We had the roundtable last year. Lauren had the roundtable with experts. We've done the research. We talk about this all the time. We talk with members, but overall, KM is no longer considered a niche function, right? It's a strategic enabler and it can drive innovation because when we improve efficiency and resilience in our organization, it gives us way more time and space to be innovative, right? When things are moving smoothly, we have more time to be innovative. So I love looking at this as truly a strategic enabler. Also, the benefits and the promise of AI. That's great for KM as well. It's motivating companies to move quickly on this. And most companies and organizations are seeing that knowledge management can be that avenue to get to some of those benefits quicker and more effectively with KM. So I think this is probably driving some of those increase in those startups, if you will, or those 0 to 5 year knowledge management programs. So keep it coming. We love a burning platform that puts KM in the spotlight because we do want to help our companies succeed. And also, as far as the discipline and the profession is concerned, as long as we remember that the future of this profession lies not just in the systems and the strategies, but in the people that bring them to life. The people like you on the call today, the people that we surveyed, those people who show up to do the tough work, to build the tough relationships, to take on the challenge and work with audiences that sometimes maybe don't know that they need them until they get to know them. So it's the people that really brings it to life. In my mind, I've always called KM a people first profession, and it will always be that way. Because if you don't know who the people are and where they are and what knowledge they have, you can't really do much else with that knowledge. So, also the professional of tomorrow is that generalist, as the word that Lauren used, which I liked, but it's part storyteller, part strategist, and part technologist, right? Now you might be better at one or two of these than others, but that's okay. You've got friends in KM, right? I always tell people no matter how small your KM team is, you've got an entire organization at your disposal just waiting to be part of creating better knowledge sharing practices. Use them, use your experts, become that person that can help that happen. And then subject matter experts really are, I think, critical pillars of knowledge management. It's the reason that we do what we do, and that's to preserve the knowledge and the information and the experiences of those experts. They're instrumental to us to make sure that we're preserving, institutional knowledge, passing it on to future generations, and keeping our companies competitive and value added and engaging for people, a place where somebody wants to work, right? That's what we're here for. So those are kind of my key takeaways. Cindy Hubert, you're on the call. I don't know if you want to add anything to any of these. Share some of your wisdom and brilliance with the audience.
You know what, Lynda, you all have done such a good job. I don't want to keep them too long, but I'll tell you, it is so promising. I just told them earlier in this chat that they are my people because of the optimism. Because guys, we hear all of the time, all of the time that, oh, KM's dead, especially when a new tool comes up and AI is the soup du jour and is here to stay. We don't want it to go away. But we hear this all the time. And so it's very heartening to hear you all really bring in the aspects of knowledge management that are so critical. The whole leadership component that you've talked about, the engagement of people and communities, and just having a very disciplined sort of project management approach to it. Those are just all things that are never going to let this discipline, quote, die. I just don't believe so. So, Lynda, not words of wisdom, but just thanks to them for their encouragement.
I love that, Cindy. And someone asked a question in the Q&A, I just noticed it, that in light of the rapid advancements in AI, wherein tasks like content management are getting automated, what does APQC foresee as the future of KM? Will it become obsolete or needed more? I think Cindy just answered a little bit of that with her response, and maybe hopefully some with some of our key takeaways. But the content management space in particular, John, I think is still just as important. I just think it's different, right? Going forward, it might look different with the automation capabilities, but it's still important that we understand what information and content we have, and that it can't be all content all the time, right? That's just way too much information for people to go through. So it's still important that we identify what's the most critical, who needs it, how do they access it, right? We still have to help with all of those components of content management, and having a life cycle approach to content is still going to be extremely valid, whether it's automated or not. That's my personal insight. I don't know, Cindy or Lauren, if you guys have anything else to add to that, but I wanted to make sure that we got that question at least addressed.
Nothing else to add for me.
Okay. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure
Yes.
we got it addressed, because we get that question probably more than anything, I think, when
We
it
do.
relates to AI.
We
So
do. And Lynda, I have to just add one more thing. I want to bring
yeah.
you all into this. Years ago, I wrote a book called The New Edge of Knowledge. It's still very relevant, but it is out of publication. We need to do a new one. But with that said, Larry Prusak, the late Larry Prusak, who was so fabulous and wrote several books on knowledge and knowledge management, wrote in the foreword, he said, and this is about you all, the best place on earth to know what's happening in knowledge management is at APQC, direct from those rare birds, the reflective practitioners. So we love that you're in our flock of rare birds.
Absolutely.
Here's what's kept it going.
Well said. And with that, I will say thank you to everyone. And I appreciate everyone's comments so much. It's so hard to be presenting and try to follow the I'm going to go back and read all the comments now and see what I might have missed out on. But we love having you join us, members and future members alike. And please continue to join us. Our next webinar is in August, as I said, and please look for this information that you will receive following this webinar. And let us know if we can help you with anything else. And one last thing, don't forget, we give you resources at the end of this. So go out and check them out. Lots of great resources based on what we talked about today and other things related to knowledge management that you might be interested in. With that, have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are located in the world. And thank you for joining us.